I'm seeing a lot of new faces. That is really fun. I think it's also because we are participating with in a couple of trainings, and we got Livy on board today. Always very fun to see like who joins because of the guest speaker. So me and Pamela are organizing the sustainability sessions. This is the 10th sustainability session. That is really exciting. So we started this 10 months ago. We do this monthly. We covered a wide range of topics, and we are doing this because we want to live in a world where the planet, people, other animals, and nature can really thrive. And the best way to make this happen, of course, is to help building this reality. And this is why we started the Green Sprint. And at the Green Sprint, we help organizations and startups with the transition to the new economy. And we accelerate and facilitate strategy and innovation processes by focusing on creating new businesses, new business models, processes. We help develop products and services. And overall, our goal is to help companies and organizations climb this sustainability ladder. And we already touched upon this a little bit in the brief introduction before, because we really need individuals from all over the world to break out of these silos, and like sharing is caring, and sharing knowledge is caring, and this helps us accelerate this transition to the new economy even faster. And this is why we are organizing these sustainability sessions, because in these sessions we dive into a wide range of topics, and we invite experienced guest speakers every month to explore these topics with us, to share knowledge and share their journey. And in this way, we can, around the globe, all learn from each other and push for this transition. So I'm very excited that for today, we have Livy Drake as our guest speaker. And Livy is the driving force behind Sustainable Sidekicks. And she works with businesses, events, and green champions to achieve their sustainability goals. And for this, she uses the principles of behavioral science to empower campaigners, communicators, and businesses to achieve greater behavior change outside of the green echo chamber. And she has practical sustainability and behavior change experience spanning events, businesses, and nonprofit campaigning organizations. And Livy will definitely tell you more about what she does and all her insights in behavior science later on. So now I would like to give the stage to Pamela.
Well, I'll just unmute myself. Yay, thanks, Mino. And really happy to see everyone here tonight, and welcome, Livy. So really exciting to have you here because as you might have discerned from both of our introductions, our ideas and work is very aligned in a way, but then also in a bit different, but we are, it's good to have this collaboration together now. So I'd first like to ask you if you have anything to add to your bio, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, yeah, thank you for that. So I'm calling in from the UK. I am, what else have I got to add? I think the main thing about the sort of like the transition for the environmentalists is that what I noticed when I first got into the environmental sector was that people in the environmental sector were very good at talking to each other, and they didn't seem to be very good at communicating outside of it. So they could talk about their own values or the things that motivate them, but there was a real disconnect, and I couldn't understand. You know, I was like, well, why don't people care about polar bears? Why doesn't these things motivate people? So I went and did some studying, and I worked with a more experienced behavior change consultant at some of the festivals I was working at. And she started to explain about behavioral psychology and behavioral economics, and we started to apply it to these events. And she was showing these little nudges and these things that we could do that were really simple. And it was like, oh yeah, we don't talk about, we have to communicate in such a different way. So for me, it's been this light bulb of how do we move sustainability out of the green echo chamber and the sort of the dark green, and make it more socially acceptable and relatable.
Yeah, totally agree. Echoing what you're saying in this case. But hey, so you already mentioned behavioral economics and some other things. How would you explain behavioral science to people who have no idea what we're about to talk about?
So behavioral science is the science of behavior in animals and of humans, and it encompasses, it's not just like one scientific sort of delineation. It's lots of different, it's an umbrella term for things like neuromarketing, which is about marketing in the brain, neuroscience, which is about understanding the brain, behavioral economics, which looks at how people sort of purchase things and the things around. They understand that, well, all of it explains basically that humans aren't rational. So it's the science of why we do things and why we're not doing them rationally. That would be the sort of the shorter way. And that's why I think it's so interesting, because it's not about, they sort of say economics thinks about homo economicus. Yes, so this thing costs more, but if I do this, then this is this. Let me make a decision. That person doesn't exist, and maybe only very occasionally do we get that person out of the bag, but most of the time we're like, oh, what's that person saying about me? Oh, I'm really hungry. Oh, I want to feel good. Oh. So we're very actually irrational and very reactive to things.
Yeah, it's fun. I love your. I haven't been in this situation with you, and I just love you jumping all over the screen. Just keep doing that. Yeah, actually, I really enjoyed that you already mentioned the mistake that we make of thinking of ourselves as well as really rational beings. I mean, that's what we're taught that we are, whereas in fact, like you already mentioned, we're not. And to get going, to give it a little bit, get it out of the abstract concept and give it a little bit more hands and feet, we're going to do a little game show experiment with everyone here. So I'm going to ask you to come over to the Miro board once again. And if you've left it by any chance, then I'm going to summon you here. There you go. Da-da-da. I don't have any music. But I'm going to say congratulations, everyone. You have made it to the grand finale. What do we call our game show? The Make My Green Deal game show. And you're in the finale. You're all together in the finale, but we're going to assume that you're one finalist. Behind one of these doors is the grand prize, which is a lifelong subscription to a local veggie box delivered to your house every week. And you have to decide which of these doors you're going to pick. The prize is behind one of these doors. And for those of you who are aware, who recognize the experiment, don't believe it, don't ruin it for everyone else. So I'm going to ask you to choose one. Jenny, we'll put the link to the Miro board in the Zoom again for you. No worries. Yes, I'm going to ask you all to put in the chat which door you would pick. Please put it in the Zoom chat if you want, or you can also put wiggle your mouse on like I'm doing right now. Pick one like that. And what I'm going to hope for you all guys is that you at some point decide collectively to choose the same door, because that's how this is going to work best. So let's see if we can have a majority or something over there. Let's see what happened in the chat. Door number 2, door number 2, door number 3, door number 1. Okay, you're not agreeing with each other. Door number 3, door number 3. I see a lot of people on the Zoom board on door number 2. Well, let's say you're undivided between door number 2 and door number 3. That's fine. So as your host, I'm going to help you out a little bit now with your decision-making process. And I'm going to put a large mark through door number 1. So person who chose door number 1, pick another door. You already done that. So you chose door number 2 or door number 3. So the big question I now have for you, if you've chosen door number 2, would you like to stay with door number 2? And or would you like to switch to door number 3? And if you've chosen door number 3, would you like to switch to door number 2? Let me see what's going to happen. You can write that in the chat if you will. You can write switch or stick. I think we do have a little bit of an issue.
We're very divided still. We're switching and sticking.
Can we get a little bit of a calculation? Quick, how many people want to stick? How many people want to stay? Well, what we can also do,
Most people are
if
sticking.
if you stop sharing your screen for just a minute, then then I can see everyone, and then I'm gonna just ask everybody to raise their hand if they want to switch. So if you stop sharing, then I can see everyone on the Zoom.
Okay, my screen seems to be a bit odd. Right.
You have some screen trouble tonight. What's happening?
I think it's because you can actually just ask people to raise their hand. That works better. Then we don't have to stop with this.
Okay, that's also fine.
Yeah.
You mean with the reactions? You mean the reaction button? Oh, there we go. I like to do it on
a double screen that sometimes gives some problems. Like it seems to be like, is there some white space in between, like an in-between world between my laptop screen and my extra screen, where sometimes things just get lost.
Okay.
Very odd. Yes.
All right. So if you would like to stay with your door, will you please raise your hand on the screen, or you can also use reactions if you want to keep your camera off. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 people who want to stay with their chosen door. All right. How many of you would like to switch? Only 2, as far as I can tell. All right. Well, this is actually really interesting. And this is, I'm going to tell you where, well, I mean, ultimately, Libby's going to explain the reasoning behind it. You are a very an average example of how this experiment works. So well done. You are the norm. Normally about 13% in total, I think, decides to switch, and the rest decide to stay. Whereas mathematically, rationally, the best choice is to switch doors. And I saw Marjolein really bobbling her head. I am no mathematician, so
I have
really
read the behavioral economics book, so I have an unfair.
Very well-known example. Yeah. So from the mathematical perspective, apparently what happens is you have 3 doors. You have a 1/3 chance of picking the right door. Then when you eliminate one, that goes to 50-50. But going back to the original example, you have a 2/3 chance of winning when you switch doors. So that's the really quick, probably horrible mathematical explanation, but that's how it works chance-wise. And yet, the majority of people decide to stay with their door. So, Libby, enlighten us. What's going on there?
Well, there's a principle. There's a couple of principles at play here, and one is the endowment effect, which is if we think we own something, or we have a perception that we own it, then we find it hard to let go of it. So that sensation that that's ours, we don't want to let go. There's the other thing, which is called loss aversion, and we're adverse to we experience loss twice as much as the equivalent gain. So this is why we keep gambling in slot machines, because of the money we've already put in. We're attached to the money that's in there. So we're already attached to our choice. And if we give that choice up, oh, it's going to be painful. So we don't want to give up our pain. And this leads us to something called the status quo bias, where we would choose to stay with the status quo because we know the status quo. We know door 2. We don't know what the great unknown is all about. So we choose to avoid it. So even if a change could be better for us, we would prefer to stay with what we know because we hate uncertainty. Our brains hate uncertainty, and we do anything to avoid it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Very, very well and quick, simple explanation. That's nice, because sometimes when you read about these things, they get very abstract. So this makes it very tangible. Let's also look at that from a towards the sustainability field, because I'm not sure how you feel about it, But I think that right now, a lot of the effort and the focus tends to be on reporting and laws and policies and energy transition and more technical side of things. Again, speaking to that rational brain. Whereas on the other side, especially in the last few years, I think we've seen an increase of attention for behavioral science, mostly as governments have started to use this in campaigning. I mean, there's been a lot of campaigns on local recycling and not picking up your grass and bringing it to the litter, but actually leaving it on the grass, these types of things. So why would you say that behavioral science is such an important aspect of within sustainability? And do you think it's already valued enough at the moment, or do we need way more people discovering its powers?
So the governments, have started using behavioral economics, especially Western neoliberal governments, because it's great because they can do what they call little nudges. So they can change really simple things without having to change the law. So that's perfect because they don't want to give anyone laws. So they've been using it for these ways of getting people to sign up for not giving blood, giving their organs or various things. And they can sort of lead conversations. But the thing about sustainability is people are going to have to change quite dramatically their lifestyle. And as you've seen, changing our lifestyles and the way it's presented by environmentalists is not what people want to do. The reality, if you talk about, things that we're sort of suggesting people should do, give up their car, loss aversion. So there's all these things. So really behavior change needs to be interwoven into the way that sustainability is created by understanding the needs of people and the reasons that they want to hold on to this existing behavior and what they want, what that existing behavior fulfills for them, to understand it in that way, to then make the appropriate communications or to design interventions that actually meet the needs that the existing behavior does. So, if we're talking about people giving up meat, there's so much status attached to eating meat. I haven't eaten meat, but there's a lot about, because I was brought up vegetarian, but there's the taste, there's the comfort, there's so many things. So when you say to somebody, or environmentalists say it's vegan or bust, someone imagines having to cook lentils or going without, taking the meat off their plate and they're left with some vegetables. It's got to be presented in ways that meets the needs. So that's where using the vegan example, the explosion of meat alternatives means that people don't have to change, they don't have to learn how to cook, they don't have to completely radically change their diet. They can still have a lump on their plate, but the lump is made of something else, which isn't meat. So it's kind of understanding it in a better, more dynamic way than the current presentation, which is you must do this, you must do that, because that ain't going to engage, it won't change people's behaviors. And using guilt or shame is not a long-term behavior change technique. It will lead people to do things like offsetting or ways to make them feel better about themselves. They stop feeling guilty. So better understanding it, using the sort of design principles that you use is really essential to build behavior change into sort of initiatives.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I agree. That's why we love using design thinking. Not only design thinking, as it has limitations, because it doesn't necessarily take the stakeholders of society and the planet into account. So we need to work those in as well. But yeah, definitely working from that needs-based approach from all angles is essential. As well as something that's, I think it's up and coming now a little bit, is upstream innovation. So not so much focusing on the end user and communication element, but already making a product or a business sustainable by design, and then designing those nudges literally in the product, which is interesting as well, and something that's going to be developing. Yeah, so how many, let me think. The second part of my question was, do you think it's being valued enough already as it is right now? In at least, are people finding you often enough and getting you on board with for consultancy things and stuff like that? Or do we need more professionals?
Yeah, I started running some workshops at the end of last year on behaviour change for environmental campaigners and communicators, and they were really well attended, and it was lots of people who have got these campaigns. They want to engage people that they haven't been able to engage before, and rather than thinking they just need to create a communications campaign, they're really wanting to understand it more. And I hear people saying a lot, we just need behaviour change, but normally what they think that is education. But for me, behaviour change is not education. Education is awareness raising, so that's the rational part, that's telling people there's a problem, but that won't change behaviour. So it's understanding the other parts that are to play in a behaviour. And what you just mentioned around upstream things, so for me, like infrastructure is really key to driving people's behaviours, and then also the social impacts or the social influences, and understanding those. But and I think what I'm noticing now is because there's such a social swell to be more aware of the environment, it's much more socially acceptable in lots of different spheres to now start embracing it. So that's really, you know, it shows how important the social aspect is. And maybe we'll have a chance to talk about social practice theory in a minute, because that sort of maybe links in a bit with that.
Well, feel free, because I'm already thinking, because I know you use the principles of East, and I think it's already time. We're slowly already getting there. But yes, I've had some really good comments and feedback on people when I shared about our meetup tonight and mentioning the principles of East already. People were really curious about it. So I'm happy to give you the stage and explain what those principles are and why they work and why we should be using them more.
So a couple of things. So just before we go on to East, because that's behavioural economics, the one social practice theory is really interesting when we're talking about infrastructure, to understand how infrastructure has changed our behaviour. So the technological advances that we've got have led to us becoming less and less sustainable, because they make our behaviours easier and easier, and there's so many shortcuts to it. So if we look at something like the car or the shower has radically changed our cleaning habits historically, and we're using more water than ever before, because actually we can wash more and more. So these technological advances change our behaviours, and they change the practices and expectations in our society. So when we're looking at infrastructure, it's really interesting to use those principles to think, okay, what's this item change now, you know, and what does that mean for our society? So if we're going to break down those behaviours, and then the principle of East from behavioural economics, which is, again, there's sort of two disciplines within behavioural science. So East and behavioural economics looks at how we can work with the cognitive bit, our behavioural biases. And so what it says is they created this a longer process for people within the government to make changes, and then they realised that their long campaign thing, I think it was called Mindspace, it was way too long, so they had to give it a shorter one, so they came up with East. So the principles are that any behaviour should be easy, it should be attractive, and when we say attractive, it's attractive to the user, and then it should be socially acceptable. And that's because we're social beings, and we care about what other people think, and we do things because of what other people think. And in certain social settings, we will fit in with whatever the social norm is. So in certain circumstances, if someone's in an office, they wouldn't start shouting and screaming, but that same person could be in a football stadium and suddenly start shouting and screaming because all the people around them are doing it. That's a social norm. So certain surroundings condition us to do certain things. So behaviours need to be easy, attractive, social, and timely. So timely, when I'm thinking about this in terms of creating an initiative, I'm thinking about when is the right time to be presenting that information to them. So when is it relevant? Because our brains are incredible things, and they actually tune out loads of information. So so many things are going on for us, but we only concentrate on the ones that are relevant to us. And I always use the example, which David's probably heard before because he's been on my workshops, that of the red car. So I didn't notice any red cars till I started dating someone who had a red car, and suddenly I started seeing these red little cars everywhere, and I was like, God, everyone must have one of these cars. Stop dating him, stop seeing the red cars. And that's because my brain's like, these red cars are important, you must notice them. Now they're not important, and I'm looking at all the other car drivers. But this is what our brain does. So we need information to be presented at the right time. So the more sensible example I use is bin signage. People put bin signage on the bottom of the bin or around the corner, or I don't know, somewhere. It needs to be at eye level at the point that someone's going to do the activity. It needs to be a visual image, because another thing is we see in images, we don't see in words. So making sure we present information at the right time is really key to engaging people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like I have my background is in marketing and communication, so they kind of, you work with the same sort of principle, like the relevancy and all of that. But it still does amaze me how our brain, I mean, I think 90% of our decisions are unconscious, right? They're like only 10% is what's conscious decisions, and that we still seem to expect people to see and read everything that we put out there. It's yeah, absolutely fascinating. I see that we have quite a few questions in the chat, so I'm going to, yeah, that's fun. Well, let's go to Jenny first. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Quickly say, the reason of easy is because our brain is wired for shortcuts. So our brain's always looking for the easy option. How can we make a shortcut? How can we, miss something out? So if we present lots of information, like, oh, you just have to do these 15 slow steps. Make it 3 easy steps. Then someone might look at it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I think the field that's really good in it, and they're really using it now, is the UX design and like website design, and from that angle, marketeers as well. Like really only takes 3 steps to become a new client, and then bam, 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 and then it's really, they've got that down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, questions in the chat. So first of all, Jenny, she said, sorry, I hope I didn't miss it. Do you have a suggestion on how to spread the sustainable spirit? As you said, guilt tripping is not a solution. I'm not sure if Jenny wants to come off mic to see if that question has might have been answered a little bit with those East principles, if that puts her in a little bit of the right direction.
What? Do you hear me?
Hello, Jenny.
Hi, can you hear me?
Jenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were discussing this the other day because I was in a workshop, in a session with the Impact Week, and we've been discussing how we can get other people to think about sustainability. And we realized, or everybody in the forum said, there's no point at saying you should do this or do that. We won't get people anywhere. And we were all saying, so, but what do? Do we just live ourselves a sustainable life and just talk about it? Is that the best way, or is there an other way to convince them?
So there's a great neuroscientist called Chris DeMeyer, K-R-I-S, and he's got a paper and a talk and things called Action Drives Beliefs. So what he says is we need to give people give examples of people solving the problem to explain it. So rather than saying there's flooding in this area, show communities solving the flooding as a way to express the solutions, and give people agency, so they see in your campaigns or your communication people like them addressing the problem. So he also says something. So what he says is don't give people a menu of things they could do. Give them a cooking lesson. So allow people to experience the solution. And then another one that I really like, which is from some climate coaches, which might be similar people to Pamela. And they say, give people a dream to walk towards, not a nightmare to run away from. So talk about how things could be and how they could be part of that solution, not if you don't do this, we're all going to die.
Okay.
Give them, thank you.
Show them heaven before you show them hell, I think. And then in climate, we tend to do we do it the other way around. Yeah. Definitely. Well, amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that question, Jenny. I saw another one from Eva, which actually was something that I was wondering about as well, because of course we've seen the EU regulation on milk products or alternative vegetable products that are not allowed to use any milk substitute or call themselves cheese. And along that line, has there been any research on what's more efficient, exposing them next to the classic product or keeping them apart? And you mentioned the organic local veggies, and I was already thinking about the milk substitutes, but yeah, this is a very interesting question that ties in with that.
So there was a research done in the Netherlands where they put meat substitutes, so the vegan sausages, next to the meat sausages, and there was a 50% increase in the vegan sausages, because the people got to then experience them and see them, because they had a choice architecture, which is what this is. They exposed them to them, because those people wouldn't go and seek them out themselves, but look, there they are. So presenting things in the same place is essential. Also with these things, the attractiveness of them, they should be as delicious, and presenting the people who market them as someone people want to see in that sort of marketing. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. It's just because I'm always surprised when I do my grocery shopping that, I just go straight to what I'm looking for. But how about everyone else buying, was important from abroad or something?
60% of shopping habits are unconscious. So there's a principle of the slow and fast brain, system 1, system 2. System 1's the bit that does most of our shopping. So we don't plan what we're buying. We don't really think about what we're choosing. There's about 40% we're like, oh, this one or this one. A lot of it is just either impulse or habits. So yeah, so if you always go to the same section, that means a lot of other people will be as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's where, so the principle is choice architecture, where we can lead people to see particular things in the way that we lay things out. And that's why the infrastructure and the sort of the mapping of things, physical things, is really important.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting. So that's why I'm so worried about that law. But let's not do it on a negative thing, because I think they're also separating them again in the supermarkets. But yeah, the Netherlands is a wonderful example of it. I mean, we have so many alternative products, and definitely celebrating every time there's a vegan cheese right next to the normal cheeses, and giving that option to everybody else, and showing that it's possible in side by side. So I'm seeing another question from Alex, and it's just quite fun. This is actually quite in line with the training that we've been something that Marjolein, Elke, and myself were involved in last week. How do I know that someone is ready or in a state to talk about this potentially challenging topic, or do I bring them in this state? Alex, would you like to come off mic and give that a little bit more context, if you will?
Hi, everyone. Sorry that I joined late. I don't know if more context here to give, but it's just that I like to talk with my friends and family about this topic, but obviously I don't want to be this annoying one who always, oh yeah, now he's starting again. I rather come, I try to come from a place of heart. But if they're not in the right state, then I don't have a chance, right? So I was wondering, how can I sense that they're in this state, or how can I basically, sort of lead them in this state? I know it sounds a bit manipulative, but so is marketing in the end as well.
So I would say one of the things about this is about, in studies about going vegan, most of the respondents have made the choice because of their peers and their family and friends have, that's who they've trusted. So there's another big thing in the social aspect of behavior change, which is messengers. So we trust and we relate to messengers who are similar to us. And there was a trust report done, there's one done every year. And I think the third most trusted messenger was people's peers, so their friends and their family. So the way to express these things is to do it in a way of I'm doing this because of this, and rather than saying you should be doing this, you talk about the reason that you're doing it and the benefits to you. So how this has made your life better, what kind of experiences you've got from it. When I travel, slow travel on trains, I always talk about the bonuses and the great experiences I have and the crazy people I meet. I don't talk about the electricity that broke, or the night I spent on a platform in a big carriage all by myself, or the other things. You know, I talk about the adventure. So I sell the experience, and so with veganism, it was 38% of people went vegan this year and last year because of the health benefits. So when you're talking to people, don't talk about the reasons that you're doing, well, you can talk about the reasons you're doing something, but find something that they might relate to them. So talk about the health, the social impact. So, you know, lots of people say, oh, the environment's not my thing, but people, I care about people. So, you know, asthma sufferers and air pollution, there's so many links. I found out the other day that children who are exposed to a lot of what's the one in diesel, nitrous oxide, no, something else, their education, they don't do as well in exams. So, you know, there's lots of engagement points that you can use to talk to people about family, friends. So it doesn't have to be just about the end of the world or polar bears. I'm not suggesting you are talking about those though.
Thank you. So for me to paraphrase, live by example, so show them and then relate these examples to them, essentially.
Thank you for the paraphrase.
Wonderful. Well, so we have an interactive exercise that kind of ties in with this a little bit, where you kind of we're going to put you in breakout groups to do that. But let's first sort of wrap up our interview apart a little bit. I saw one question from Elke in the chat, and there was something that we had written down ourselves as well, and it's already what's popping up thanks to our participants, that we always have a very diverse group. And yes, of course, we always assume that we all want to help other people make the sustainability switch, or whatever term you put on it. So what would be some 1, 2, 3 tips? Where can we start tomorrow, and what can we do straight away?
In terms of behavior change?
And helping other people doing that. So you already answered a little bit with helping Alex to get there. Anything else that we might take into consideration as a takeaway from our session today?
Yeah, so I would say take a huge step back and just think, what is that behavior fulfilling for that person? So before you start telling them how to change their behaviors, understand why they're doing it in the first instance, and then you can then start having conversations about why an alternative might meet those needs, or how it could benefit their life. But yeah, certainly think about your user or your friend or your whoever it is, and why they're doing that before you start telling them they should. And yeah, never tell them they should change their behavior. That's the other one.
Yeah, that's like, you have to change. Yes. I do see that Elke actually put in the chat unconsciously as an addition. So she mentioned in helping others to unconsciously making the right choices. So
this is one of the things, you know, we can change a lot of behaviors, and really the only way we'll change behaviors systemically is if we change the systems and the infrastructure that's available to us, trying to win over hearts and minds, trying to identify why does this person do it, and then we'll design something for them, and then we've got these people and we design something for them. It's been much more powerful if we change the defaults that are available to people, and this choice architecture. When the board moves around, I go slowly. I'm going to turn it off.
Oh,
that's better. So yeah, so how can we, if you're in a workplace and you're like, I want to make people not use those disposable cups, or I want people to cycle to work, okay, look at how you can create a shower room so that then they can come and, you know, not be sweaty, or remove the reuse disposable cups so people have to use a reusable. Think about the infrastructure and how you can control it without then having to tell people what to do or try and win them over.
Right. Okay, does that answer your question? Very quiet now. I'm gonna.
Oh well, I thought in just if you just are in conversations with people or living your life as you live it, we said that's the best way to do it. But how do you put something unconsciously in their brains?
Well, this is that, yeah, you can't, I mean, you can't unconsciously put something in their brains, or you, I mean, the other thing is you can expose people to these other ways of living. So the more people see behaviors as normalized, so something called social norming. So if people suddenly see, so I was involved in a campaign called Refill, and it was about encouraging people to carry a reusable water bottle and fill up in a cafe or a restaurant. And one of the signals for refilling is then people carrying a reusable water bottle. So if you want people to do this behavior, get lots of people around them to start doing this behavior, and suddenly everyone's like, oh, I want one of these, I want to be like everybody else. So if you think about, I remember when skinny jeans became a fashion, and I was like, you will never see me wearing skinny jeans. And then I saw everyone wearing skinny jeans, and I was like, oh God, I suddenly like skinny jeans. That's called the mere exposure effect. So the more we see something, the more we like it. And it's the why brands, you know, brands advertising everywhere, the billboards, and there's the advert, and then there's the thing, and there's the other thing, and it's all the same advert. And the reason is the more we're exposed to something, the more we think, oh yeah, I want that. So they've done studies where something that's got good, you know, something people have seen a lot, and then something they has got some good credentials, they will always choose the thing they've seen a lot because they've been more exposed to it. So yeah, don't expose yourself, expose people in the best way possible to that desired behavior.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I see Manu is adapting the board because we have quite a few people joining us, and then for the exercise part as well. So to bridge that towards the exercise, were you with us, Libby, last month? I don't think so. No. I'm not sure who of our participants were here last month. Well, it doesn't matter. We had last month we had another. You were, yay! It was Alex, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, I remember. So we had Tina from Packback with us, as well as Jennifer from Loopit, and I think you mentioned the takeaway coffee cups just now. So what they actually do is they offer a product as a service model for coffee cups and takeaway packaging. And like another example that Minu and I both very much love is Mud Jeans with their amazing pioneering lease a jeans business model. And then you have Rent the Runway as well. And then we're also seeing like these sharing platforms popping up for all sorts of different things. And I think Minu was really fun. Minu found this amazing platform focused on house swapping for seniors that already live in a retirement home. So they can actually swap their,
Yeah,
I mean, how amazing is that?
It's called Linked Age. And basically it's for seniors with wanderlust. Like that is the best idea. And we found another one as well. It was a really interesting one about, it's called Travel Spoon, where you can, it's basically Airbnb for diner experiences. So all over the world, you can go to someone's house, cook with them and eat with them. And they're just strangers and you're connected via a platform. And it's a great way to like get to know a culture, share a meal, save some money, meet new people. Yeah, it's great. Like all of those things, they pop up from like babies to seniors now. So very interesting.
Yeah. However, I'm going to be the the negative Nazi again. I think the big elephant in the room. I mean, we all love these kind of things, like circular models. We're all sustainability echo chamber here. But the big elephant in the room is, of course, that they all challenge this idea of ownership, which you mentioned, social norms, which of course is still our norm right now. And do you think that this is a particular like a tough mental model that we have to break, or and if so, why?
So this plays into this endowment effect, which is that we we value things more that we own, And also, if we own things, then it's much more convenient. So we love convenience because it's easy. So the idea of giving up a car, I gave up a car, so it was less easy for me to jump in it, and that meant my default had to be my bicycle. But for a lot of people, giving up a car means, but what about the uncertainty? And so uncertainty, the endowment effect, and the loss aversion, so that fear of change as well.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so if everyone is ready and up for it, let's make this a little bit more interactive and bring you to the Miro board yet again. Do we have people here who are familiar with the value proposition canvas by any chance? Just out of curiosity? No. Oh, that's okay. That's fascinating. Usually there's like a few people who are familiar with it. Business model canvas, value proposition canvas, but that's okay. We don't need that knowledge. I was just going to say this is a deconstructed version of that, but you can just put that to the side straight away. Manu has brought us to the board. Have you asked us to be followed, or we can just look in the Zoom as well? So yeah, continuing on that ownership model, and it's already been mentioned, like Livy doesn't own a car anymore.
Excuse me, can you share the link again? I don't have the link for the board.
Of course, Alex, no worries. Manu, do you want to do it or should I? I can do it. No worries.
On it.
On it, okay. So what we are challenging you to do is to think a little bit in a breakout group in a bit about alternatives for car ownership. And there are, of course, there are already a lot of them out there. And I'm sure you can all mention a few examples from your city or from your country. But the big challenge, as we've all now understood, is how do we get them to switch to these alternatives? How do we get more people to switch to these alternatives? And one size doesn't fit all. So instead of focusing on solutions straight away and looking at it from that angle, the first thing that we need to do is understand the needs of the people that we're trying to reach. And we need to empathize with them. So for that end, I have created a few user personas for you, as they're called in marketing and maybe in behavioral economics as well, Livy, I don't know. Yeah. So with your breakout group, we'll give you 8 to 10 minutes. I don't think we can do the whole assignment right now, but yeah. But let's at least make an effort for it. With your breakout group, look at the model on the left side here. This one, can you see my mouse moving? No. Number one, the circle one, the circular one. And if we zoom in a little bit, you see it's based in, it's three pieces of the pie. So what we want to look for and what we're trying to shift our brain towards is what are their jobs to be done. So this is a phrase that we use in design thinking and behavioral economics. So instead of someone, for instance, an example, if you have a painting that you want to hang up, but you're marketed to as you have to buy a drill. So marketing messages are focused on the drill, on the product, but they're not really focused on the job to be done. Whereas really what you're trying to do is you just want to hang that freaking painting on the wall because that's what you want. And you don't really want the drill. You just want the nice painting on the wall or the pictures of your kids or family. So making that shift in your mind to think about what the jobs to be done are is one. And then from there, you can start to think about what are the pains? What pain is this person feeling that's associated with that job? What do they want to avoid? What problems are they going to encounter? And now we've heard, of course, a lot from Livy on biases and how our brain works. So what kind of principles might they suffer from? I mean, we've heard of the endowment effect, so that's one of them probably that's going to be in there. And how might that play out? And then on the more positive side, what results and benefits are they actually looking for? So what gains are they seeking? So that's part one of that exercise. Sorry, I needed a glass of water in a minute. I'm talking so much tonight. So we gave you all, if you scroll down a little bit, Minu's going to put you into breakout groups. We've made 2 different user personas. So one group is going to focus on our active senior called Beth. She's right there with a picture. So take a little bit of time with your group to read through it. And then just focus on having a good conversation with each other. Put some stickies on the jobs to be done. It doesn't matter. You don't have to answer all those questions that are up there in the model. Just try to figure out what you can come up with. And the other two groups will have the family frenzy, the Benson family. Same holds true. Just read what they're all about and see what you can come up with in that circular model. We'll give you about 10 minutes for that, and then we'll come back and share some insights. And let's see how we get on. So also don't forget to appoint one person in your group who's comfortable with sharing that in the bigger group later. So Minu, whenever you're ready, or if there are any questions, I'll be hopping around the breakouts if you have any questions coming up. But if you have any now, then
just let us know. And the names of the breakout room groups match the names of the boards. Like you can find the name in the yellow bar above the personas. There you can find if you are in either 1A, 1B, 2A, or 2B. So I'm gonna drop in the breakout rooms now for around 8 minutes, and we will let you know 60 seconds before we come back to the main room. And then we see you all in 8 minutes.
Ooh. Hope you have fun.
Hey. Je moet even unmuten.
Oké. Nee, ze waren maar met z'n tweeën. En ik geef ze even gewoon sowieso. Ze moeten het eerst even lezen en dan lekker hun ding doen.
Oh, die waren met z'n tweeën. Oh, dit is typisch, hè?
Dat mensen dan eruit gaan, hè, als ze een breakout moeten.
Echt direct. Maar nee, deze zouden met z'n zevenen moeten zijn.
Interessant.
4, 4, 3, 7 heb ik hier.
Ik zat in groep 1B, hè?
Die zijn met z'n tweeën, ja. Maar die hebben het wel leuk samen? Die hebben het wel leuk samen?
Geen idee. Laat ze maar even rommelen. Oh, wat gebeurt er met die ding? Iemand zit het hele bord te verplaatsen. En de cirkel, kijk. Uh-oh.
Dat is niet zo erg.
Uh-oh. Die cirkel gaat helemaal mis. Ah, paniek! Ben jij dat?
Nee. Niet nu ook dingen gaan doen.
Oh, ik wou zeggen, ik lok hem wel even. Maar jij bent al bezig. Prima.
Ik had die echt net gehoord.
Huh?
Ik had die net.
Vind je het leuk? Gaat het goed?
Nou, ik had allemaal stress aan de achterkant.
Oh. Ja, dat gevoel had ik al een beetje, maar ik kom niet zo heel goed bij.
We kunnen de opname nou wel trouwens stilzetten, want we zijn dit nou allemaal aan het opnemen, maar dat heeft niet zoveel zin natuurlijk.
Oh ja, slim. Deze ook. Oh nee, deze zijn ook op slot allemaal. Oh nee.
Wat is er?
Oh, ja, dit gaat ook helemaal mis.
Gaat die op slot? Ik was die echt net op slot aan het zetten op het moment dat je ermee ging slepen.
Slot, hoppakee. Zo.
Zie jij de klok lopen of niet?
Ik zie de klok lopen, ja.
Oké, kan je maar laten weten wanneer die afloopt dan? Want ik zie hem dus niet lopen. En mijn Zoom doet echt maf vandaag.
Hij is nu op 4 minuten 53.
Oké. Nou, die Devo doet hij wel nergens heen blijkbaar, denk ik. Misschien is hij er niet, of zit hij nou ondertussen al in die andere groep? Nee, die is vertrokken, denk ik. Oké. Nee, want blijkbaar op Eventbrite konden mensen niet... Ik ook. Ik ben te veel dingen tegelijkertijd aan het doen. Dat is eigenlijk niet handig. Fast share? Nee.
Yeah, mid-sentence, of course, as always.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Like that is tricky. I mean, you could press the button, go back to main room.
I know.
Once you ended the sentence, but yeah, it's a bit tedious.
I know. So I'm really curious. How was that? We're doing sort of okay for time. We have 20 minutes until the hour at the end of our session. What group feels very happy with their discussion and would like to share some of it with us?
I think group A1 had a wonderful discussion.
We even had one person who knew how to note it down, and that was you.
Are the rest of you guys okay if I present what we did?
Yeah, bring it on. You're the only one who knows how to do it.
Okay. So we discussed how to convince or bring Beth to ditch her car and instead use car sharing and public transportation. And yeah, basically we identified some pains that she may lose her independence. Apparently she has a dating life and can be less spontaneous. Shopping might be less easy. She may miss a social component here. She might enjoy going shopping because the alternative would have been ordering online. So that at least as a pain reliever wouldn't really work for her in that case. There might be confusion with the public health transportation system. Is that easy to handle for someone her age? Although it might be, she's just 66, but we don't know the system. That was one of the pains I wrote down. I think we mentioned more, but I wasn't quick enough to write them all down. And then on the gains, we had, she doesn't have to maintain cars, trains might be cheaper. There might be actually more social opportunities when she uses car sharing or public transportation, and it might be healthier on more exercise because she does more exercise.
Oh, okay. Did you think of any of the principles or the biases that we spoke about before?
Nope.
Okay, no worries. That's no worries. It's a really short time to go. Really, I think we've all found that 10 minutes is really quick or 8 minutes even we had is quite quick to go over this. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What other group would like to share? We just go to group 1B, maybe, to stay with Beth. Maybe Jenny would like to share. I think Jenny was in that group.
I was by myself, so
Wow,
there's not a lot of things I can add to that. So I think it's all the points that are out there. You know, that she's active, she's afraid losing her independence, so that's important to her. And then let me go to the board. I can read it. Can you zoom in a little bit more? Because then I don't have to. Oh yeah, you know, there are other solutions. She could get food delivery and not going shopping herself. Or sorry, zoom. Yeah. Yeah. So she thinks she needs the car to go to the city. Yeah. So it's basically everything that was said before. So right. I like though that you shared this canvas. It's interesting to learn new things.
You're welcome. A pleasure. And well done you for doing that all by yourself. That was interesting. I think we lost a few people when we went into breakout rooms. It happens. Not everybody wants to participate. That's okay. Yeah, let's look at the family frenzy teams. Let's start with group 2B then. Who would like to share a little bit what happened there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Definitely, yes, David.
So this was the Benson family. They have, he's got a hectic working life in the city centre. They live in the suburbs. He's a chef. And I've actually forgotten what she does. She is, she works for a company in the city centre. And so we've marked down a few pains and gains here. He plays basketball on the weekends, which is a 10-minute drive away from their house. So that would be a bit more of a pain if he didn't have a car. They see family. They, you know, driving to and from work, commuting, and they. Her company is paying for the lease of the car for 2 days a week, so that's all quite kind of nice and convenient and beneficial for them. Pains of not having a car, you know, pains in general. Being a chef is pretty painful experience. He does long hours, Wednesday to Sunday. Having 2 children under the age of 3, commuting in and out from the suburbs and parking in the city centres, pretty painful. But all these things are manageable with a car, I suppose. Jobs to be done. You know, getting the children to and from nursery is a key thing. They've got lots of hobbies, and getting to work. The car is kind of a key tool for them. But they still have their old city bicycles apparently, but they don't use them anymore. So they're kind of, the green answer is staring them in the face, and they so we're kind of, that's basically as far as we got. Pain relief, the left hand side of the setup here, we haven't done much. We didn't get much time to fill that in, I'm afraid.
No, you didn't have to do that, David.
Sorry?
So you didn't have to do the left side of the exercise.
Okay,
yet.
sorry.
No. So no worries there. That was my point. You don't have to worry about the left side yet.
Right. Okay.
No, so you did wonderfully well. So did you start with the pains and the gains, or the jobs to be done?
The pains and the gains we started with. Maybe it would have been a bit easier starting with the jobs to be done. I think the main thing really was the kids, and having having 2 kids under the age of 3 is hectic for anyone, especially when you've got a busy job. So getting them in and out of the nursery and in and out of work quickly is a priority.
Yeah, definitely.
So they'd be a difficult family to persuade giving a car up, I imagine.
Well, before I respond at all and ask Libby to respond as well, let's have a look at the final group who talked about family frenzy as well. Which one of you would like to share a little bit? Marjolein, yeah, come off mic if you will. Sure.
Yeah. Well, we discussed a lot of trips they have to do. There's obviously the job trips, the trips to and fro work, and we're not sure about the distances, but a 1-hour drive is probably very far for her. And going to the city center is another trip. Then there's there's daycare trips, like David already mentioned, for the kids. And then there's things for not work related, but still important trips for them, like going to a hobby, going to family and friends, getting the shopping in, going to a language class. Those are all important to them, but perhaps a little less necessary than the work trips, but still, because they go to a 25-kilometer radius, not perhaps very easy to substitute with a bus or a bike. For the gains and pains, we discussed the same things, but also discussed things that could be perceived differently. Because if you think about you want to go spend time with your kids in the woods, that means you want to be active with them. And you could, of course, go with a car to the woods and then walk there, or you can go biking with the kids, depending on the area where you live. But suburbs are probably nice enough. So that would be a switch, because the gain they would have from the forest walk would be transposed with another gain. But that's a nudge you would have to do. So we got to as far as that kind of thing, but that's priorities and perceptions that have to be reorganized, and that is heavy work.
Can I just add a couple of things to that?
Yeah, of course. I was going to ask you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It's my first time doing one of these events, so I'm glad to kind of be here. But yeah, there was some great discussion in the group, and 8 minutes or whatever it was really not enough time. I think I've just about got done reading it. But yeah, so I think in terms of what Livy was saying, some of the behavioral economics, what struck me was maybe a big thing would be loss aversion. So they have a car there, which the husband is using, I'm guessing, most of all. And you could look at it and you could say, right, you can either take a bike, a scooter, or public transport, whatever, and you would save on insurance, you'd save on petrol, you'd save on parking, you might have a certain amount. But he has the car there right now. It's easy. He just jumps in it, he goes, that's it. So that's one of the kind of the pains there. I think a big gain to be had, which I've only just sort of thought of hearing back everyone's feedback, is the kids. So if you make that change in order to do transport by bicycle and things like that, it may not be apparent, but you're teaching your kids those habits, right? You're showing them it's okay to do this, and they would have a greater chance of growing up to do the same things. So it's that social aspect, I guess, of benefit of economics, behavior economics. And yeah, and in terms of the wife, I think if the company could chip in for an Uber twice a week, I think it should get more time back. She'd get an hour to sit in a car and do some reading or whatever. So yeah, that's my 2 cents, but thanks it was an interesting exercise. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Livy, did you have any insights, especially from what's come back from the group, or what group were you part of? Anything you particularly want to share?
No, I was in 2B. I was trying to navigate Miro, and I was finding it very painful. I was going to say that, like, I feel like I needed a lesson in driving. I needed a lesson in driving Miro boards, because I was going all over the place. So that was a massive distraction for us all. But in terms of the discussions we were having, there was a lot there around their lives being so full already, and kind of adding, you know, and let's talk about this infrastructure thing. So the car enabled so many things and a certain way of life that people wouldn't have had before they had a car. So people would have to live close to where they worked. You know, and that's the thing. The car enables them to live outside of the city. The car enables them to have these other lifestyle benefits. So when they're giving up the car, if they were to give it up, the perception is they're giving up a lot of the lifestyle that's sort of enshrined in it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think in one of the groups, we're just thinking quickly, we have 7 minutes until the hour. So the second part of this exercise would have been to put you back into your groups and have you focus more on the positive side, because it can get a little bit draining to focus on pains and jobs and all of that, and everything that's wrong. But maybe we can do that a little bit more centrally in the group, just to wrap it off with a bit of a more positive vibe. But yeah, that said, I think I was in the group with Gideon and Marjolein, where you were already talking about those pains and gains, already focusing on the solutions, all the options that they had, and all things like that, which in a way is great. But then again, the first thing to do is take that step back and look at what jobs they're trying to get done, and maybe there is not one right solution. That's not even not within one family, because they have several things that they're needing to get done. So don't trap your own brain or don't fool yourself that there has to be one perfect solution that's going to replace that car, but there can be multiple. But the thing is, how can we tie them together and, well, and maybe to put in Livy's words, create an infrastructure around us that enables us to solve the issue of mobility in this case, I guess, because that's ultimately what the need is. We need to be mobile. We want to get from A to B and get stuff done. Okay, do we have, Livy or Manu, help me out. Do we have any preference on which of the two user stories we'd like to go positive on?
I would go positive on the family. It has more elements and more, yeah, you can go in more directions. I would go that way.
Let's do that then. Let's do that. So at least let me explain, because you all have the link to this mural board. So feel free to go back, dip into it later, because we only have a few minutes now, and have a look at the model at the top to make that sink in a little bit. So the second part, once you have those jobs to be done and those pains and gains, then first you'd want to focus on the pain relievers and the gain creators. So really try to deconstruct it still. Don't try to figure out, solve it in one go. So what might help them to relieve these pains that we've identified? And what would some sort of solution have to offer? You can pick one of your post-its and really match them together and figure out, okay, this particular pain of having to take the kids to school, how can I fix that? What options are there? What pain relievers can I come up with? And then the gain creators from the other side, like what are the gains? What sort of benefits, what sort of results would any solution be having to give them? And in this case, we put the principle of ease that Livy shared with us again, because those are really good cues or principles to take into account here when you're thinking of the brainstorming in positive ways. Make sure that they're easy, attractive, and social and timely. I can't repeat them enough. It's almost like SMART. They remind me of the SMART goals a little bit. Lovely acronym as well. So try to stay away a little bit from the solution, product, service.
We're on the wrong screen, Manu. It's the we're on 1. It should be 2 that you're showing.
3, yeah. Should be on the right. Sorry, Manu. Thank you, Livy. Yeah.
I was trying to move it and I realized I couldn't.
That's what happens to me too.
You're the second person I've heard that say today. That is really funny. Someone tried today to stick post-its in Zoom. I was like, that's another level. Really cool. It'd be cool if it was possible though.
It would. I think it is. I think they are trying out something. I'm not sure if it's Zoom or Teams or one of the things they're trying out. Integral. Okay, never mind. Getting off topic. So my recommendations for now would be to try to stay away from actually coming up with a total solution or a product or a service, and first focus on those pain relievers and gain creators. Like really try to keep it in a more deconstructed way. And then this is something that startups, for instance, use as well. If you're really ideating on like, I don't know, I just want to start a company and solve a problem, is pick random pain relievers and gain creators and put them together and see what comes up, you know, what ideas pop up for you, how you might combine those into a singular solution. But for now, I think it's enough to focus on the pain relievers and the gain creators. Mm-hmm. So let's take the board on 2A. Or 2B, whichever you prefer. I mean, 2B has a little bit more post-its on the right side, but that we can use.
Let's go with 2B. There is a bit more input. Yeah.
And is there anything in particular, Manu? I know you're a wonderful brainstormer and creative person. Is there anything you would like to add in terms of framework? Because otherwise, I'm just going to go brainwrite. Just go for it. Take a post-it and write whatever you can come up with as a group collectively, and give us a few minutes.
With this is the wrong one again. This is better. It's the one right and left. It's 2B. We said
2B.
What? Is this?
Yeah, right bottom. Right bottom.
2B.
There
2B or not 2B?
Long day.
Well, that's always the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to be. Not to be. No, I would just go with a collective brainstorm, especially because we don't have that much time. Although I do keep in mind with this one, when it goes, is about mobility, that it's not just about getting from A to B, and it's not just mobility that people want, but there are a lot of other elements to it, and sometimes very surprising elements. I once did a design thinking process for a mobility like public transport company, and where we interviewed a lot of people who chose the car over the public transport, and it actually turned out that they frequently had the reason of weird smells as the reason to not take public transport. So really keep those things in mind, that there is more than just going from A to B, but also like, is it indeed like sense of ownership, control, smells,
Safety.
Safety, exactly.
safety,
Yeah.
all of those things. Yeah, definitely, because those can be nice nudges as well in like other directions.
Carrying lots of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah, in that sense, that's the kind of things you'd want to hash out with the pains and the
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now it's all right.
Yeah, that's why I added them.
That's, yeah, exactly. Well done.
Yeah.
And then as well, like we gave you the user persona right now, and you had to make some assumptions as well. We gave you some information, but we didn't tell you which city it was, how big the city was, what country it was in, the cultural context maybe. So there's still lots of other things that you could not have known, which is fine for now. But when you're doing this for an actual campaign or for a company, it's really interesting that you never, even one company doesn't have one singular target group. So really trying to hash that out, like who are those different personas that you have, and contextualize your problem. That really helps to create a campaign or a nudge, if you will, a solution that's really going to help them change their behavior for the better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll shut up now and leave you working in silence.
The one from personal assistant is very interesting, actually, because indeed people often say that they take the car because it gives them the ability to leave at any time they want, so they can just think, okay, now I have to leave. Whereas if you have a personal assistant, even like a virtual one or an actual person, they could really help you out with like figuring out right on the spot, okay, I want to go somewhere, what is the best option? You don't have to go like into that. That's a cool way to think. Take a sabbatical year to think about this.
Yeah, I was Mira, I said the same thing. I love that. Let's give everyone just 1 more minute to wrap up their post-its or add a final one. And then I cannot wait to hear about that sabbatical. That's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, I'm seeing some wonderful stuff on there already.
Mm-hmm. You can also turn it around. Instead of thinking, how do I get myself or a part of this family to the places where they want to go? And so you don't have to think about mobility. You can also think, how do I get those places to this family?
Yeah. Family fun while biking. Yes, Marjolein, where would you like to, again, I suppose it's again, creator, family fun while biking. There you go. All right. Did that scare you, Livy, or not so much?
Not so much.
Hero gives you a very, very sweet little nudge when the timer's off. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm seeing some wonderful things there. It's always good to end on a positive note with some happy thoughts on how we might solve problems. So can't wait to hear about the sabbatical again. Who put that lovely sticky note on there, and would you care to share?
It was me, actually.
Hi, Seraphine. Lovely to have you back.
Thank you.
What made you write that down?
Well, it's all because when everything is hectic, it's so difficult just to get outside of your own mind. So, I mean, that's my example. I just took a year off, so that's why I was thinking about putting that as an option, just to think about your life and what you want to be as a priority, so that you can start to, reorganize with your value and not keep things, bringing you with the wind. In fact.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely an interesting thought, because a sabbatical means you have more free time, indeed, on your hands. And this family is obviously very hectic in their day-to-day things. So the thought behind it is actually quite interesting, to maybe not do so many things, or change a couple of other things in there, and how they spend their free time. Thank you for that.
The car to your mind. It's like the most easy and close by transportation possible. Like, you're already there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Is there anybody else who would like to share something in particular? I'm just reading over all of them quickly.
In the same idea that has just been shared, there's a tendency to just go by, the best school, or the, the activity where so-and-so is, and not looking at what's more realistic for oneself. And the same idea of, trying to reprioritize, be more focused on what's important, and rather than try to do it all. It's also like trying to also choose activities and location in relation to what makes sense to you, and not from a social perspective. Or so it's about making time, more qualitative time for oneself, and therefore not having to be in a way the victim of a physical constraint that you impose on yourself, when you could actually choose differently. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I just add something to that, Emily. I fully agree. It's a bit like doing a home budget, where you also look at a home time schedule, I suppose, and you see what you spend most time on. And are those things the ones you want to spend time on, or would you rather do something more fun instead?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you for that addition, Eva.
I have the idea about the. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Serfin, go ahead. You want to?
No, it was about the personal assistant, because I found it kind of difficult, because there's so many solutions around you that sometimes it could be a virtual assistant or personal assistant that can actually almost like coach you about what is the best option at the time you decided to move on to new ways of living, mainly because to me mobility is so key to our life, that it's moving so many parts in your life. So it could be nice to have someone that kind of help you re-engineering your life and decide, okay, now you can, in 3 months you can move from A to B, and that could be some options just to relieve the pain.
Thank you, Serafin. I think that's actually, I like the personal assistant as well. Like, if we're looking, it's already leaning a little bit more towards a solution or a service, but that's fine. That's what we're doing. So let's not limit ourselves there. But that might actually be really interesting to have, even if it's a digital version, like Google Maps, that you need to go from A to B. In that sense, that's the functionality of it. And what's the best option? And there's a few platforms that do that. Again, Rome to Rio, and like Google Maps tries to do it and give you various options, but they're not very personalized in that sense, and they don't give you all the options as well. So it might be an interesting idea.
Sustainable options or the more out of the box options.
Exactly, they don't do that.
No, they're very limited. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Can I add something to this?
Yeah, Shanka, and then I would like to go to Marjolein and then to Livy and wrap it up. Absolutely. Because we're already well over our time, but please, Shanka, go ahead.
Absolutely. So regarding this options and this platforms that offer this kind of options, personalized travel planning or something like this. So we use Yandex systems for our company purposes and all. So we recently found out that Yandex is having the same option better than Google Maps or better than Waze or any kind of competitors in the Eastern European sector. So if you are someone from the Eastern European sector, so you can check out Yandex like this. So they have given tremendously very well planned public transport system planner in the Yandex platform, Yandex map and everything.
Oh,
Even yes, absolutely. Even what the buses, what are the green buses, what are the normal buses, they also mention in that platform. The movement of the buses are also tracked there. So that is an absolutely fantastic option that I miss in any other platforms. But unfortunately, Yandex is available in Eastern Europe, centered around Moscow and everything. So you guys can check that out.
Yeah, that's amazing, Shanka. Would you be so kind to put that link in the chat if you have it available?
Absolutely.
Then we can all have a look. Okay, let me quickly go to Marjolein and then wrap Livy for some final thoughts. Marjolein, please go ahead.
In Holland, we have a few cities which are changed over from being car-centric to other transportation needs. And what struck me most from the stories they have, so they have stories about these families doing that. So if you want to sell dreams, those stories might be useful in portraying stuff and nudging people there. But what struck me most there is the fact that people said, well, when we were in the car, it was all a hassle. There was all stress and pressure and having to do the queues of cars. Now we use bikes and we use trams and we use other things. I mean, they had a variety of options, like Pamela said, but they had more fun. That's why I added the fun while biking. But a lot of fun doing the mobility because they did it together with the kids. Either whether it's a cargo bike or small bike, whatever, various options. But the fact that they had fun while doing the transport made the whole process perception for everybody very different. And therefore the gains and pains totally moved and the whole solution. So I found it very interesting.
I think that's what, as it's completely aligns with what Libby said about attractive as well. Like fun definitely for me fits in with attractive, depending on who you talk to, I suppose. But yeah.
The thing is, they said when we were doing everything with the car, we had a different perception of the world and of our lives. So thinking about how it would be with the bike, we would have perceived very much different. But now we are a biking and bus family. We have a different life, which we couldn't have imagined when we were still doing everything by car. So getting people to transition, you have to really tell them the stories and picture the other life before they can even start to understand and before they decide. So these stories, I think, are very powerful there.
Yeah, I totally agree, Marjolein. It's ties back into give them a vision of heaven before we share the problem. Don't focus on the problem too much. But maybe I'm taking words away from you, Livy. So would you enlighten us with some final thoughts and insights? And then I think we can wrap things up for tonight.
Yeah, I think that really is lovely about the experience and selling the dream, not the nightmare. So I think there's one thing I was just going to share was some interesting research from the sharing economy. So lots of things like Airbnb and Uber promised to mean that people wouldn't need a car anymore, and it was deconstructing all these things, and the sharing economy was better for the environment. And they did some research in New York, and they found that more people congestion has gone up, and more people are using Uber than and people who are using public transport are now using Uber. So actually they're taking a car more than they ever were. So the unintended consequence is that actually it's creating more car journeys than before. And Airbnb, in the way that it's broken down the holiday, and it's made holidays so much cheaper, which means more people are now using flying and traveling than they were before. So this is, again, this unintended consequence of technology. So these are things to be aware of when we think about the technological solutions to problems. So actually going back to the basics and selling people a dream that's much more simple, and it's about our own experiences of these things, rather than trying to, come up with the app or the thing that's going to do this and make everything more convenient, because the convenience quite often ends up with these unintended consequences.
Yep. Well, it's not the happiest, highest note to end on.
Sorry.
but well, maybe then
The dream, sell the dream.
Sell the dream, yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen so many beautiful examples tonight. Like we've heard from you, we've heard from Manu, from myself, from our participants. So many great examples of things that are already happening. So to end on that happy note, I mean, change is the only constant, and I mean, action is being taken everywhere. So I'm really excited to have this wonderful group with us tonight, and I hope you enjoyed everything. Feel free to give us feedback. We have on the Miro board again, we have a nice little wrap-up board. So if you have any comments for us that you'd like to leave with us, any questions or open ends, then feel free to do that. So it's always welcome. We also have a lovely ebook that we published in January, and we have a wonderful Slack community. It's pretty quiet. We're just starting it up, but it would be so lovely to join if you want to join the sustainability sessions community and share any questions. We have many different speakers, so that means different people from different topics and backgrounds join us, so that's kind of fun. And yeah, I mean, it's as active as we can all join in and make it. Was that my point? No, I'm getting confused. But yeah, anyways, so wrap it up for now. Minu, would you like to add anything else? Oh, Livy, thank you, of course. I forgot to thank you for your presence. And all your wonderful information and knowledge and nuggets of wisdom, as we like to call them. Yeah. Minu, would you like to add anything else?
Yeah, if you want to connect with Livy or either of us, you can also find the links to our LinkedIn profiles on the board, and you can just contact us there. And as well, me and Pamela, I don't think Livy is in the Slack channel yet. Hopefully she will join. You are.
I am.
You introduced yourself, and I even promoted this session there. So I don't know. That's true. You are there. So if you have any questions there for us or for Livy, you can drop them in there. And also just ask each other questions, break down those silos. The point of the Slack channel is that this is sort of a sustainability session around the clock. So we don't have to wait for like the fourth Tuesday of the month to drop in all our questions and talk about all these things. And like, I think someone mentioned that you don't want to annoy other people with talking about sustainability the whole day. In this group, we invite you to, so you don't have to feel, you don't have to worry about this. So if you want to talk about sustainability, just jump into Slack and do so. And as well, if you know a nice guest speaker for next time or a topic that you want to discuss or that you're very curious about, please let us know. So we will look for a speaker that can enlighten us and discuss this topic with us. And I think that's all I had to add. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you for joining and enjoy your night. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.